Hey everyone, welcome back to the Convo Couch. I am Fiorella Isabel, and I am doing a hopefully not too long short solo video on Elizabeth Warren, and this is all in response to Emma Vigilan's video referring to me as the QAnon of the left, which is laughable, but it's also a very serious matter because in the times where progressives and the majority of our public cannot rely on the mainstream media because they feed us this corporate narrative that is directly influenced by corrupt politicians and it's directly influenced by money, we need to be able to find news sources we can rely on. And when those news sources that we have been relying on forever are leading us astray or not being honest, it is our job as civil servants to call it out, to say this is not true. And so in reference to that, I want to talk about Emma's tweet and why it's so important for me to point out that what I was actually saying isn't invalid. So here is her tweet that she posted last week, I believe, and where she refers to me as the QAnon of the left. And it's really, like I said, dangerous and it's funny at the same time. And then we have my tweet, and I'm going to talk about a couple things here. So my tweet was saying that Elizabeth Warren has been endorsed by these companies. I got my tweet from a meme, and I went to Open Secrets, and I went to FEC, and I verified that these things were true. To me, an endorsement is money. However, when I realized that Rob had posted the correct, someone had got this meme from Philosopher Rob on Twitter, who's a great source because he does go deep into Open Secrets and into FEC. I retweeted his tweet and I said, okay, this is the right wording because I believe that what I wrote wasn't the best wording possible. And so there, you guys can see his tweet there that she has taken money from big shareholders and CEOs of these companies. And like I said, you guys can go to Open Secrets and FEC filings yourselves to find this information because it is true, and I wouldn't post something if it wasn't true. So looking at that tweet, we're seeing Bain, Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, NBC Universal, Royalty Pharma, Comcast, Rockefeller Family Feud, George Soros, Warner Brothers, Global Petroleum, Sabin Capital, NASDAQ, Berkshire Group, Walt Disney Studios, and I put TYT because some of them have actually done this. So the whole reason I'm here and I'm here to talk about this is because I don't like things to be left in this way where people are allowed to dismiss truth as a conspiracy theory. And that is the same kind of attacks we dealt with in 2016 when the neoliberals or the centrists painted anything Bernie Sanders supporters said about the DNC rigging as conspiracy theory. And when we allow that to happen, just like with Russiagate, it is really doing a disservice to the public. So I want to go ahead and watch some of Emma's video and tell you guys why this is actually what she's saying is entirely wrong.
So I just had to respond to a lot of the rhetoric and fake news, honestly, that I'm seeing. So I just had to respond to a lot of the rhetoric and fake news, honestly, that I'm seeing online, because as a part of the left, I do feel responsible for the rhetoric of some on the left, I guess that's what they are. And I think that it's harming the electoral race and everything that's going on in progressive politics right now. So first, let me start off by saying that in my objective analysis of the race so far, in my objective analysis of the situation from a progressive perspective, I believe that Bernie Sanders is the better candidate compared to Elizabeth Warren. So is that clear enough for everyone? Bernie Sanders is the more progressive candidate. He is the best candidate versus Donald Trump as it stands right now. I don't think that's going to change, but I'm just throwing that caveat in there because it's not static. I adore Bernie Sanders. I supported him vociferously during the primary.
She is starting out by basically saying, quoting air quotes, like, oh, the left, if that's what they are. She is starting out by dismissing and then also being extremely defensive, saying like, oh, I support Bernie. By the way, I support Bernie. Just so you know, I support Bernie. I'm not talking about her support to Bernie. That's not what I'm questioning. There is no objective analysis that TYT has been doing. And I want to just forward to where she is, Johnny, talking about Tulsi Gabbard and certain things that are not factual.
Medicare for all, yes, she has been. So there are many criticisms to be leveled at Warren. I think that she's certainly the second most progressive senator in the race. If we want to talk about Medicare for all, yes, she has been a little bit waffly on that. But, you know, for example, Tulsi Gabbard was not a co-sponsor of the first iteration of Medicare for All in the House. She signed on when it became more popular. So if you're a Tulsi Gabbard supporter who's going after Warren on Medicare for All, you're hypocritical. You're hypocritical.
Okay.
And yeah.
All right. So that's pretty much all I'm going to show of that video. You guys can watch it on your own if you'd like. But Tulsi Gabbard signed onto Medicare for All in 2017. When she was one of the first co-sponsors of Medicare for All. In fact, she had a petition to become a citizen co-sponsor of HR 676. And this is all on her website. And this is coming from the Unions for Single Payer Healthcare. And that is entirely false, by the way. What's also false is that Elizabeth Warren is the second most progressive candidate in this race. Arguably, to many people, Tulsi Gabbard is the most progressive one. I'm a Bernie Sanders supporter, as many of you guys know. So my two choices are Bernie Sanders first and then Tulsi Gabbard. I consider Tulsi Gabbard as the other progressive candidate and the only other progressive candidate that has a shot at all. But, you know, I consider her the second most progressive candidate. In terms of a lot of things, but in terms of foreign policy, to me, she is eons beyond what a lot of people have made it out to be. So let me just go ahead and break down exactly why what she's saying is entirely untrue. And by the way, she did have this little tweet here where someone responded to her video saying she's really frustrated and terrified that hard pass on Warren. Just look at her endorsements, Goldman Sachs, right at the top. She's saying, look, this is not true. This is spreading. This is misinformation. And as a journalist, if I saw misinformation being spread, obviously I'm going to call it out. But the fact is that she's the one that's misspreading misinformation on Elizabeth Warren. So let's look right here on Open Secrets. We have right here, not just Kaiser money, but the Goldman Sachs money as well that we are seeing. And again, you guys can all find this on your own. Bain Capital was a huge one that was there. So this is according to the Washington Free Beacon. The Warren re-election campaign's latest FEC report shows she received $5,400 from Jonathan Levine, co-managing partner at Bain Capital and chief investment officer at Bain Capital Credit. So what Warren did is she was able to funnel a lot of her Senate campaign money directly into her presidential campaign, which is actually a way to take this money. So we can call it whatever we want. We can say, okay, when she started, she didn't, she's not taking any money now. But then let's just say that and let's stop pretending that she's not taking that money. Then there's the securities and investments money. So if we look right here, and I highlighted it, it's circled for you. Elizabeth Warren took $118,000 and $118,166 from the securities and investments firm. She took more money than Ainsley, more money than Bullock, more money than Bernie and Yang. And when it's that small for Bernie, Yang, and Tulsi, and Julian, then when you go deeper into it, you see that these are independent people. But when it's bigger amounts of money, you're seeing that this is coming from high officials within these firms. We also have like I said, she's funneled a lot of this money from the Senate campaign. And then I have this tweet here where she's taken millions from Wall Street in 2018 under the guise of doing it for the Senate reelection. So this is kind of further explaining what I was saying. So she funded her campaign based 3 months later based on this money that she had already taken. And right here we can see the night after Mr. Biden's April visit, Mrs. Warren mingled with donors at the Manhattan home of Mark Green, a former New York City public advocate. The official reason being her 2018 reelection bid, for which she had already stockpiled $15 million. A few months earlier, Meyer S. Fruker, the vice chairman of NASDAQ, hosted another fundraising reception for Miss Warren. Miss Warren attended the party fundraiser in July at the residence of the former UBS executive, and she had privately met with JP Morgan Chase's chief executive, Jamie Dimon. So the lone Democratic outlier from this money chase is Senator Bernie Sanders from Vermont, who bypassed the largest contributors in 2016 presidential bid and still raised about $230 million. So let's be real here. Let's just be real. Let's stop denying the fact that still Warren, although much, much better than any of the other establishment candidates, is still part of that establishment capitalist oligarchy, and she is going to fall in line and do what they ask her to do. She also transferred exactly $10.4 million from her Senate account to her presidential bid. And here we have NASDAQ. And a lot of people were like mocking me because I put NASDAQ. But we have it right here. All of this money directly to Elizabeth Warren. And it's, again, really big honcho people donating this money. It's not just people working for that who are low-end employees. And first of all, people working for NASDAQ, the majority of these people are going to have money. Then we have George Soros. George Soros has money to candidates right here, money to Elizabeth Warren. And of course, this goes back way back, but we can see the latest date is in 2018. We also have oil and gas money. Now, for someone that talks about the climate and talks about not taking money from bigwigs, according to philosopher Rob's research, which I did find as well, oil and gas industry money received from Bernie Sanders is in 2018 was $2,633. For Elizabeth Warren, it was $38,152. So let's be real and compare the vast differences between Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders. So why would these oil and gas execs prefer Elizabeth Sanders over Bernie? Well, because she's not really going to divest fully from oil. Let's go to pro-Israel real quick, Johnny. Let's mention on Israel's right to defend itself. She had a very pro-Israel kind of tone. And again, this is the money that she's received from them, which isn't anything in comparison to Cory Booker and co, but it is significant at $17,859. Bernie at $590 right over here, and Tulsi right here. And Tulsi, again, is much younger. Why didn't she endorse Bernie's bills before is another thing I want to point out to Emma. Why didn't Elizabeth Warren, the progressive, come out and support a lot of Bernie's bills? Bernie Sanders has introduced 4 bills to expand Social Security in the last 6 years, but Elizabeth Warren didn't endorse any of them. S478, S427, S371, and S500. And these are all for expanding Social Security. Why did Elizabeth Warren then, I guess, decide to be on everything at the last minute right before she's running for president? I don't know. Now, this is the biggest one for me. This is the one that irks me the most. This is the one that, to me, is it. You don't support this, you are out. You are gone. She backs off Medicare for all. And I have the Kaiser money from a PAC from her and Kamala that we can show here. But more than anything, her daughter, Amelia Warren Taigi, is an American businesswoman and consultant, but she's also the co-founder of Health Allies, who is now part of United Health Group. And a lot of people say this isn't fair game. That's her daughter. That doesn't mean anything. but in coalition with the fact that she did back off Medicare for all. She said, glad I got a chance to talk with ABS CBN News about improving access to healthcare, strengthening our economy, and reforming our immigration system. I'm in this fight all the way to the Filipino families and to build an America that lives up to our values. So let's be clear here. Elizabeth Warren didn't just tweet this. She actually got on several interviews and dodged a question about Medicare for all. She didn't come right out and say that as of her recent interviews. And she was kind of waffling, like Emma made light of it, right? She may be waffling on Medicare. She's not just waffling. She's giving us the signals and the cues about improving access to healthcare. We don't need to improve access to healthcare. We have access to healthcare. We don't have healthcare, period. And having access doesn't do anything when you can't afford it. And so when you're promoting a candidate, which is all TYT has been doing, they have been smearing Tulsi Gabbard and promoting Elizabeth Warren, even though they're saying, oh, Bernie this. I don't buy it, when they have been promoting and pushing Warren at a far greater rate and completely not being critical of any of these things that I'm talking about. And again, healthcare is a human right. There is no access. There's no affordable to it. The minute a presidential candidate says that, that tells us that they are backing off of it. And again, this isn't the first time Elizabeth Warren has done this. This is echoing a centrist take, and there is absolutely no defense of this at all. We also have the tweet here that is talking about the whole divide on access to healthcare. This is similar to Bennett's healthcare plan. So what I'm going to try to show you guys here is that John Delaney, Bennett, and Joe Biden say similar things and use similar wording. So that's the reality, is that these people with these centrist ideas and Elizabeth Warren are kind of using the same verbiage and language, and we really can't afford to take a chance with that, considering people are dying because they can't afford their insulin, considering millions of Americans are at the risk of incredible debt because they can't afford their health care. Now, Elizabeth Warren also never had a plan on her site. You guys could go look. She never had a full-fledged Medicare for All plan like Bernie Sanders has had, like other candidates have had on her website. And she, again, that's just unacceptable to me if you're running as a top-tier candidate. And it's been crickets from Emma and Anna. But I want to talk about the Tulsi bashing for a second, because I mean, it's just incredible. Like, they have been spreading the smearing of Tulsi Gabbard in relation to Modi. She has a tweet here. That Modi connection has aged like cheese in hot sun. They're talking about why Tulsi hasn't spoken about Kashmir. They're talking about how she has received right-wing donations from Modi. She's pushing these same debunk smears that have been entirely just completely false, because nobody can find the money trail to what Tulsi has said or what they're saying about Tulsi taking this money. And I wonder why no one can come up with the receipts. It is absolutely unnerving to see the amount of work that not only the mainstream media, but now TYT is doing in pushing these Tulsi smears, when there is absolutely no money trail. I have looked for it. Other people have looked for it. There is no indication that she's taking direct money from Modi. And I talked about the other day with Pasta on how Ro Khanna is the one who was actually seeking out endorsements. Let's talk about the Jeffrey Katzenberg money really quickly. Jeffrey Katzenberg has donated to Michael Bennett, Joe Biden, Cory Booker, Pete Buttigieg, Kamala Harris, John Hickenlooper, Beto, Amy Klobuchar, and Elizabeth Warren. He hasn't donated to two people. Those two people happen to be Bernie Sanders and Tulsi Gabbard. Again, the only two people I'm going to vote for. So here's a reality, because I don't want to be here all day. I'm going to make another video on why Elizabeth Warren isn't a progressive, because there's so much information. There's so much that she has done. But this is a start, and I wanted to show you guys just all of the things that are actually the montage of things that are facts about Elizabeth Warren that the media doesn't really like to play out. And that, how Elizabeth Warren also talked about change it. Just she talked about flip flopping with unions. Talked about flip flopping of Medicare for all. When she turned her back on Native Americans. I mean, regarding the Standing Rock, we know this. When she used her small Native American ethnicity to gain Edmonds to Harvard. And then the last thing I did want to mention was the latest thing, which is really bad, which was the report on that basically spoke about how she, instead of defending people from the Dow, hold on, I'm trying to pull it up here. I want to make sure I say the right thing. So instead of working to limit the Dow chemicals, am I not reading it? Okay, so here's the report from 2012. And this report showed that in her private legal practice, Elizabeth Warren actually worked against breast implant victims, but she claimed otherwise. And so the Washington Post is one that literally kept this from air, and they kept this from being promoted, and they instead promoting the squad ordeal with Donald Trump. So this was part of a pattern of Elizabeth Warren representing major corporations against the people she claims to care about. So before she launched her major political career, and again, the Washington Post has been very pro-Warren in their favor. They should have reported this news. They should have made a big deal about this. If Bernie Sanders had done this, they would have reported on it. If Tulsi Gabbard had done this, they would have made a huge deal about it, but they didn't. And a lot of people just completely barely mentioned it because of the whole Donald Trump squad feud. And here's one more thing I want to say about that. Senator Elizabeth Warren worked on more than 50 legal matters during her career as a professor at Harvard, charging as much as $675 an hour to advise a variety of clients. And this included people with asbestos disease and a corporation facing possible liability over ruptured breast implants. So when Warren decided she was running for president, she released a list of 56 cases on her website, revealing a far higher number of cases than she had previously disclosed. So she obviously, understandably so, has been trying to tie this. And I want to just close this segment by saying I don't think Elizabeth Warren is the worst person in the world. I actually don't think she's in par with Hillary Clinton. I considered Hillary Clinton more of a psychopath. Elizabeth Warren isn't that. Elizabeth Warren, though, we have to understand, is still part of the same system. In her recent take on the climate town hall, she pretty much spoke a lot of great things about about the environment, but she never mentioned fracking. She also mentioned about Green New Deal, but her Green New Deal version and Bernie's Green New Deal version are two entire things. Like Susan Sarandon said, Bernie is the only one to call for a complete ban on fracking. There is no middle ground. So that is a fact. Elizabeth Warren is better than everybody else, but the fact remains that Elizabeth Warren is still an establishment candidate. We need to stop thinking that she's a progressive. We need to stop this idea that, criticizing her faults and her policy is something bad. I am not badgering her because I just don't like her. I'm not badgering her because she's a woman, but I am simply saying that she is not on the same equitable stance as Bernie Sanders, like a lot of people are trying to say, that her run is actually hurting Bernie Sanders, and they have all lined up behind her because they're going to push her to win this nomination. She is the last card that they have. She is a capitalist in her bones. She believes in markets. She was a Republican until, I believe, 1994, and she is not going to change the system into a different system. She's going to maintain the system and try to fix it. We don't have time to fix the system. We absolutely do not. We are dying. This planet is dying. People don't have time for incrementalism. Elizabeth Warren means more regulation, but not revolution. And we need that revolution, and we need that revolution now. And kind of placating to the center like she is doing, and a lot of people are doing, including I've even criticized Bernie of doing it because they fear that they're going to push other people away. And that's not the case. The majority of Americans believe in Medicare for all. The majority of Americans believe in climate justice and immediate action. We need more than plans. We need actions. And Elizabeth Warren has many plans, but she doesn't implement the legislation. She doesn't do the things that need to be done to get us out there quickly, right away. And that fact remains. And I just wanted to say that because there's a lot of misconceptions out there that we cannot criticize people. We are the ones that can criticize. The campaigns running have to be different. They have to operate on a different level. But we, as grassroots, as indie media, as the people, have every single right and need to be critical and vet these candidates, because these people are not are going to represent us for the next 4 years, and we don't have necessarily the time to be soft on them. So it is a disservice when people like Emma or Anna on TYT completely fawn over Elizabeth Warren and equate her to Bernie Sanders, when that is just not really the case. And they can say all they want that they don't prefer her and all of that, but when your reporting is clearly biased, and there's no denying that. And we need to understand that, unfortunately, when you take money from a hedge fund capitalist, you are putting yourself in a position where you have to say things that they want you to say, which is why I'm not going to do that. And we haven't done that. And I'm against that, because the moment someone gives you money and you take it, they control you. And when it's a lot of money, like $20 million from an ex-CEO Disney, the CEO of Disney, and the who also worked on DreamWorks, and who has also ties to Hillary Clinton and has campaigned for her and given her all this money. When they have ties to these centrist oligarchs, I'm sorry, I am going to be doubtful of where you're going. So thank you guys for watching. Please let me know in your comments what you think. And just so you know, I am doing a video on why Elizabeth Warren isn't a progressive, and I'm going to break things down a little bit more as far as different issues that I have with her. And thank you for watching, and I really, really love your support. Please like, share, subscribe on YouTube, and I'm going to go look at you guys on Facebook. And thank you for watching on Twitch and Twitter. CONVO out.